Hello and welcome to True Audiophiles. My name is Jim Carter. Today I'm going to talk about what my pet peeves are about these this newer thing. It's been around for a few years now, but these deluxe and super deluxe reissues of albums. It happens quite a bit nowadays where you'll have an album. One prime example of one that's coming up, for example, is Prince's Sign of the Times, where they're going to have basically a remastered version of the album, and then they'll have, I think they have three variations of the album. They have a deluxe version, which basically has kind of all the single versions of the songs and side Bs from the album, and 12-inch versions on a, well, in this case, third disc, because Sign of the Times was a 2-disc set. And then they'll have a super deluxe set, which has all that stuff I just mentioned, but it'll also have some stuff from his vault. I think like 2 or 3 discs. I think at least 3 discs worth of this. I don't know. There's like 63, I think, unreleased songs on there, plus a live album worth of stuff from that era. So, but what spawned this video for me was just the fact that recently I've been noticing a trend that I don't like very much, which makes it very hard for me to want to collect these discs. But basically, it's it's been happening with 2 specific ones that I can recall, and that is the Paul McCartney Flaming Pie box set, and the one that just got released this week, the Rolling Stones Goathead Soup release. So I'm going to go over kind of my big pet peeves about these, that some of these have and some of them don't. The big one, especially for those 2 that I just mentioned, was just the cost overall. Cost per disc or record or whatnot. The Flaming Pie one, I don't remember how many discs it had. I think it had like 3 or 4 discs or something like that, and it was $260. And back when Paul McCartney started doing these deluxe box sets of his albums, I bought a couple of them because they're reasonable. They were in the $80 to $100 range. They started getting up to about $150, and I was a little hesitant. I think I got one that went on sale after like a year or something like that, and got a great deal on it, so it didn't cost me that much. But now with them going to like $260 for the amount of stuff you're getting on it, to me is just absurd. But and actually the Rolling Stones one is kind of the same way. I think the Flaming Pie one had several. It may have had 4 or 5 discs, but either way, the Rolling Stones one for Goathead Soup, that one has basically 3 discs, or I should say 3 CDs worth of music, plus a Blu-ray disc that essentially has a surround sound version of the album and a high-resolution version of the album on it. But that's it. You get that in a book for $150. And what's frustrating even more is the fact that there's no way to get that surround sound mix unless you buy that $150 version of the album. And to me, that's just absurd, especially since I actually bought the high-resolution download of the album of all 3 discs off of a website, Qobuz, for, I want to say it was like $20. So I basically got all the 3 discs that were in the $150 set for about $20, and they were high resolution, where that box set only comes with the main album in high resolution, which brings me to my second point that I don't like about a lot of these box sets. And that is, if you're going to be spending that $100 or $150, or in the case of the Prince box sets, like I think the new Sign of the Times one is going to have like 12 or 13 records, so it's justified it's going to be like $280 or whatever it is. I feel they should give you the best quality version of that album as for digital download as well. I know it's the 1999 box set that I bought, that had MP3s you can download, and I'm pretty sure the Sign of the Times one is going to be the same way. But to me, if you're spending that kind of money, in my opinion, you should be able to download the best quality version of the album you can. And if there is a high resolution version of the album, which I know there is because I've already seen it up for pre-order on Kobuz's website, which is what I use for downloads and for streaming, it's available in high res, quasi high res. It's barely, but needless to say, it's still higher resolution than what you'd get on MP3. So I really feel, I know Paul McCartney does do this, which I like, but I don't, most other people don't. I think Peter Gabriel may have done it. I know he did it on a couple of his records that he reissued, but I don't know if he's ever done it on the box. I know there's a So box set that I have, and I don't recall it having high res, but I don't recall. But I think that that's something that is just, if you're going to be paying that kind of money, you should be able to get the highest resolution download you can if there's one available. One of the other ones that it's kind of a pet peeve just because you're paying all this extra money for essentially just trinkets. It's the useless extras that you get on these. Now, one of the prime culprits for doing this is Pink Floyd. They had, their Dark Side of the Moon and Wish You Were Here and The Wall super deluxe versions of the album, and they'd come with like marbles and scarves and things on that nature, which just to me it was absurd. And actually, Tom Petty's gonna have a new box set coming out, and I think October for his album Wildflower, and that one is going. They have like an uber deluxe version that has some sort of a bag that it comes with. That is one of the biggest differences between that one, the uber deluxe, and the super deluxe version. Music is pretty much going to be the same, although I think there may be a single that they include in that uber deluxe version that they don't on the super deluxe, and there's a pretty dramatic cost difference between them too. So pretty senseless to me, but I guess if there's collectors out there who really dig that stuff, I'd love to hear your take on that. But I think that I'd rather not have that stuff and charge me about $20 less for it. So one big one that I've kind of just settled with, because I know it's just not going to be something that's ever gonna change, is that the remastered album is rarely better than any of the old masterings of the album. I'm somewhat optimistic about the Sign of the Times one based on my singles box set that I reviewed last week, because that one actually sounded pretty decent, and but in most cases they just dynamically crush the music, and it just doesn't sound as good as the original ones almost every time. They're trying to modernize the mastering of it, and by modernizing it, they basically, you lose all the dynamic range, and the sound quality just isn't there in a lot of the cases. One of the big ones that I've had on a couple of occasions, there was a Bob Marley set and then a Jimi Hendrix, I think it was the Electric Ladyland box set if I'm not mistaken, came with really low quality live sets. There'd be like the Jimi Hendrix one, it would cut off like mid-song, and then there were parts of it that just didn't sound good, and then the whole Bob Marley one, I can't remember the box set that it was, but it was just a terrible sounding live set. If you're gonna do a live set on these and charge all that kind of money, get a good quality one on there. And if you don't have one, just don't put one on there. It's just a waste of space and my time and effort to try to listen to it and things like that, because it's just, I'm never going to listen to it again. As it is, I'm actually not a huge person for listening to live recordings. I'm just not sure why it is. I prefer studio recording myself. But if you're going to put a live record, I do dig a live recording if it's well done and it's a great performance, and especially if they kind of have a really cool take on a song that I know really well, and they've just kind of redone it a little bit to make it kind of cool. So that I don't mind it, but get a good quality recording of it. So all right, I think that's about everything that I have for my top pet peeves for deluxe box sets. I would really love to hear what your thought is, whether you even buy any of these deluxe box sets. I tend to buy quite a few of them. I've bought a lot of the Metallica ones, the Beatles ones, obviously the Prince ones, several of them. There was a Queen News of the World one that came out that I thought was actually pretty decent. But I try to buy them on albums that I really enjoy and really like, or buy from artists that I really like. And actually, am like I had mentioned before, the Flaming Pie and the Goat's Head Soup deluxe box sets that came out, I was interested in, but they weren't, because I really liked both artists quite a bit. Paul McCartney and the Rolling Stones are some of my top level favorites, but just can't justify spending that kind of money on a box set when it's like that. One that I think I've talked about, and it's not just one; it's on a lot of them that I really respect, is from XTC is one of them. There's a couple of other bands that have done this too. I think Yes has done it a couple times, but basically this has, I think it's one CD, and then it's got a Blu-ray. Now the Blu-ray disc though has the 5.1 mix. It's got basically additional 5.1 mix of the album. Then it's got additional 5.1 mixes. Then it's got the stereo remixes. It's got instrumental mixes. It's got so it's also got the original master. The previous one, if I failed to mention, because I don't remember if I mentioned it or not, is the remix. It's a newer remix of it, and they've got the original mix on here, and then they've got like at least 2 or 3, if not 4, other CDs worth of stuff. I mean, if you look at the back here, this is everything that's included on the Blu-ray. So you can see there's quite a bit of stuff, and this costs like $30. If this was a Rolling Stones or Paul McCartney album, this would be $150, and then they'd give you a big book too with a bunch of pictures, which I guess you could complain that this one doesn't have that, but it's basically got everything else I want, which is basically the music in the highest possible sound quality I can get, and a bunch of extras that are also in that resolution too. So anyway, that's my take. I want to hear what you have to say. Please leave your comments below. If you liked what you saw here, please like the video. If you want to see more of my videos, please subscribe. And if you want to know when my new videos come out, hit that alert bell. I'd love to hear from you, though. Please leave your comments and let me know what your pet peeves are about some of these box sets, and if they differ at all from the ones that I have. So thank you very much, and you have an awesome day.